Hi, everybody. It's Rick DiClemente coming to you from starself.com, and welcome to another edition of Astrology Unplugged. Tonight is going to be very intriguing because I've been telling you for months about what's going on in Trump's chart, and I've been giving you for months the date of March 30th. Can you feel the heat turning up? It is a big deal. He's in a lot of trouble. It's very real. He might slip by, but I don't think so. And if anybody's seen a picture of him lately, he's not looking very good. And I'm not wishing ill health on the man, but I am wishing health on the country, which is why that subject's up for grab now. Anyhow, I'm going to go through about 4 things. I'm probably going to scratch that part tonight about individual charts and Aries because I want to get to Susan's chart. And in case you don't know how we do things here, all you do is have to write to me at rick@starself.com, letting me know that you would be interested in having your chart done on this show. This is being recorded and will be publicized all over the world on YouTube tomorrow, but I don't get too private. But my next on the list is Ray and then Jericho. So you would be third up if you sign up now. Coming about my classes, I've come out of hibernation after many years. I'm going to teach anew. I've got 7 certain right now. I need 1 more person. When I get 1 more person that's sure hierarchy, then this class will probably start in about a month. It will be 8 weeks long, beginning astrology. Okay, now we're going to get down to business, and I'm going to try my best to explain it to you. All right, I'm going to start with where the planets are right now. I have been feeling this incredible tension in my chest. It's not a heart thing, it's an electrical thing. And I've watched planets for so long, I can tell which one it is. When you're new to astrology, I think a lot of the folks here can attest to. You watch Mars, it's 5 degrees away. Mars is coming to hit one of your planets. Mars is moving now, transiting. It's about to hit one of your natal planets. And the whole time it's coming, oh, here comes Mars, here comes Mars, here comes Mars. Well, you do a lot of sweating and Mars goes by, it's no big deal. That's the pain of being an astrologer. You're going to sweat a lot of things you don't have to, and you're going to sweat a lot of things that you do have to. But it's coming anyway, and there's nothing you could do about it. That's one of the problems being an astrologer. Well, I could tell something was amiss because my electrical system is messed up. Electrical systems are Mercury. Hyperness, spasms are Uranian. That's what you've got to do with the planets. You're not going to fool anybody, especially yourself, unless you get down key words about these planets. When somebody says sudden, I know it's Uranus. When somebody says it's foggy, I know it's Neptune. When somebody says it's heavy duty, it's either Pluto or Saturn. When somebody says, oh, it's kind of spiritual and spooky, it's Neptune. So people tell you the adjectives, and the adjectives always match the archetypes of these planets. Always. So I got to thinking after today, experiencing a lot of weirdness in my electrical system, and I've been having electrical work done by healers this week, which is interesting. So I go to today's chart, and now I can see on my monitor, yay! I can see the planets. So you see that Mercury's right here. He's the little guy with the hat on. And yes, you are going to have to do a little bit of work because I refuse to type out the names of the planets. You're going to have to learn the names of the symbols of the planets. Mars, Uranus, Mercury, Venus, etc. And that's not too much for homework. So Mercury moves very fast, and I hate to tell you, but Mercury's going to retrograde again in about 3 weeks. And the one in January was the worst one I've seen in my life. Not because of the Mercury retrograde, but because it was retrograde when other planets were being wild at the same time. That was the one at Christmas time that lasted till about January 10th, and it was just unbelievable chaos. So what I was picking up, I told you nervous system, Mercury. I told you chaos, Uranus. Look, 1823. 1823 and approaching. When two planets are coming together, that's called approaching. In astrology, when they're separating, they're called separating. It's very important in astrology. One planet could be going backward, the other one's going forward. They're both approaching. So in astrology, two planets approaching or separating are a very big deal. And that's why you'll see on these diagrams an S or an A sometimes. It tells you it's separating or it's applying. They'll sometimes call it applying or getting approaching. So we see they're 5 degrees apart right now. Right now. We go by days. We're advancing by, we're going to animate this chart by days. We'll go forward 1 day. Now it's at 2023. Another day, 2223. Usually planets really start to act up when they're a degree away from each other.
We can't see the changes, Rick.
Thank you. I should have looked. iPad. Elke is my monitor. She does a good job. Okay. So we see here that Mercury is a degree away on the 25th, 2 days from now. 3 days from now, Mercury has passed over Uranus. So these are the combinations. This is the one, Mercury and Uranus in a fiery sign like Aries. And Mercury rules the news. You seen any craziness in the news lately?
No.
I mean the news itself. Well, this is one reason. John, take care of can you mute people? I guess you can't.
No, I don't have the ability to. You only have that.
Okay. All right. Please mute yourself unless you're going to be speaking later. Okay. So, all in all, the next 3 days, don't be surprised if you feel your energetic system messed up, if you feel kind of jumpy, kind of spasmy, and also being in Aries, being extra impulsive. So nervy. It's going to calm down in a couple of days, but be alert. Now, the next thing I want to show you is this. This is really important. I want to go to the GOP's chart. Now watch this. We know the GOP's chart, not the time, but we don't know the Democratic chart. And I really wish I had. I have a Democratic chart, but I don't trust the details. So I don't know. But knowing that the GOP is a Cancer with a moon in Scorpio makes total sense to me. So we go to, let's see here. I've never used this. Interesting. So I can see on my monitor. Okay. All right. Here's what I want to talk about the GOP's chart. Do you see the Neptune at 12? Now, someday I'll talk a lot about the GOP's chart, how they are wait a minute, this is wrong. That's wrong. Let me try this again. Let's try this again. Here's the GOP's chart. It doesn't want to show. Somehow I think if you go slower, it works. Okay. Here's a GOP's chart with the sun in 14 Cancer, which is intriguing because the USA's sun is similar. Well, they're born July 6th in Jackson, Michigan. But Pluto has been opposite that sun for the last couple of years. But the critical thing about the GOP's chart is the Neptune is at 15. Now, let me explain this to you. May of next year, when you talk about the outer planets coming back and hitting planets, they don't have to be real close. They are in effect for years before they're exact, such as Aries being hitting us now. Aries has been in effect for 10, 20 years now. But the Neptune return takes 186 years. And as it starts to return, it's in effect for many years before and after. Now, if you really want to get good at this, the book you want to read is called Cosmos and Psyche. This is the Bible of astrology. Cosmos and Psyche, Psyche. Absolutely phenomenal by Richard Tarnas. Let me try my new trick here. Let's try this out here. Cosmos and Psyche by Richard. Okay. Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas. His other book was a predecessor to that, phenomenal, called Passion of the Western Mind. There you go. Geez, Elke is so good. Now, Passion of the Western Mind was the history of Western thought coming from the East over many, many hundreds of years. Cosmos and Psyche, he doesn't play around with you. He shows you he's an astrologer. It is one of the Bibles of astrology. He spent 30 years showing you detail by detail by detail, this king, that war, this queen, what planets did what that caused what. And he only focuses on Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And he shows you at the 60s why they were the way they were. The 1500s, why you had Galileo. On and on and on. So anyhow, he shows you these large-scale periods, how they came about, why the 60s were revolutionary, and he shows you the planets involved. And you read about a third of this book, and you're just totally convinced. Passion of the Western Mind has become a mainstay in the universities for simple philosophy, because it shows how the mind changed. Now, in astrology, when a planet comes back to its planet, that's what's so confusing. They all have different orbits. They all have different speeds. They're all going on different times, different directions. And that's why it looks like a stupid science. It's crazy. But if you can understand it, you got it. This is why when the sun comes back to your sun, it's called your birthday. And that's why it's not just the candles on the cake. You feel renewed. A planet come back, ending a cycle, starting a new one. It's not just the beginning, it's very much the end of an old cycle. This is why you see so many times Crime Network. Tomorrow would have been the exact anniversary of these killings. Look at the problem we just had in London was exactly 1 year after Belgium attacks. These are not coincidental. So patterns completing bring a closure and hopefully an opening. Now, when you get further out, like Mars comes back every 2 years. Saturn comes back every 28 years. They become more important as you go further, and they take on the nature of the planet we're discussing. Now, when Neptune returns, Neptune is the part of you that is your spiritual connection. It doesn't care about your job. It doesn't care about how you're feeling. It doesn't care about your body. It cares about your spiritual connection to God. Now I'm being oversimplified. Now, in the grand old party's chart, the Neptune return, which has been forming, it's got 13 more months, it's closing now. What happens with Neptune? You either get real with God or you go off into smoke and mirrors. You either get real with your spiritual development or you go on hiding, faking, lying, hiding behind clouds. This is what you do. Why? These planets aren't up there saying, well, let's get these guys. Because the Neptune part of you, when it returns, it's like stripping you naked. It's like this. And you stand before God naked and you're evaluated spiritually. Now, in the old days, we really took that literally. And we thought some guy's up there with a list and he's making notes and you're a sinner and you're being judged and all that stuff. That's not what happens. That's how they got to us to think that old stuff. Well, what happens is you can see it in gardens. You can see it in cycles, all cycles. Things have a time of their own. They have a completion cycle. And what happens with the GOP, they don't know this yet, but the reason they've been having trouble, even though they got the presidency and the Senate and the House, it's pretty clear to see that they're falling apart for years. And I'm not pushing pro-Democrat either, because they got their own problems. They're being stripped down to how just are you? Neptune wants to know how Christ-like are you? And Christ, if I may, is thoroughly embarrassed looking at this possibility of this health bill where there's no health at all. I'm not going to get off on that, but I mean, if Jesus said anything, it was to heal and help your neighbor. So what happens when you're starting to suffer from the Neptune judgment is you want to hide. You want to run away. You want to put up smoke and mirrors, called the clown car. I don't have to tell anybody what the vision was like to see those 17 people running for the Republican nomination. I mean, you can't help but just hold your mouth and just laugh hysterically. And they had people at the kiddie table, remember? You didn't make it to the big table. You got to sit at the kiddie table. It was clownish. The reason it's clownish is because it's not real. Now, it's not easy, a Neptune return. Now, if they had been ready, and they're nowhere near ready, and if they had done the mea culpa and really turned around and started to care about people, you would have seen Neptune help them. Bring people together, unite people, instead of panic, keep people over there, build a wall. I was talking to my eye doctor today, and he was talking about, I said there's anywhere from 300 to 700 bases around the world. He said, good, it'll keep us safe. I said, what do you think if Egypt built 700 bases around the world? What do you think if Australia did? Why is it just us? So what's happening to the United States chart with the Pluto opposition to the Sun in the United States chart? It's in the 7th house, and I've been telling you so much about adjusting how we deal with other countries. What's really important about a 7th house transit is what role do you want to play now in the world? What role are you going to be suited for? And if your role is old and outmoded, it's not going to be supported and it will decay. That's what's happened in the United States chart. In the GOP chart, they're trying to fake it. You cannot fake Neptune. A proper Neptune being is like on one hand you got the Dalai Lama, on the other hand you got the Pope Francis. They're real, they're loving, they're unconditional, they're simple. That's what Neptune presses for. And anything else gets eroded. Neptune erodes like an acid. So before you start pointing a finger at Trump, if you don't like him, the problem starts with the GOP chart because of the lack of spirit, the lack of real spirit. They can still turn it around. Do they show any signs of it? No. Who is their mouthpiece? The Fox Network, which is the fakest side of Neptune possible. Neptune's fake side is glamour and glitz and put on the show and put on the image. And Breitbart. Yes. So we're learning to see through it. So this is how it happens. This is why it's happening. Now, to look at Trump's chart, I want to show you something. Here's Mr. Trump's chart. Let's see if that comes through to you. With Mercury in the 10th, okay. This is not Mr. Trump's chart. This is his 10th harmonic chart. Okay, I'm going to explain that in a minute. This is called a harmonic chart. And I want to show you something. In Mr. Trump's chart, get all these buttons straight here. I want to go to 1 year from now. No, I don't. No, I don't. I want to come back to now. Okay, here's you guys can see Mr. Trump's chart. Okay, you're not seeing the dual wheel. All right, let me try it this way. Now, let's see. It's still not showing.
Nope.
Yeah, I got a monitor. It's working now. Let me try it again.
Oh, you got a second monitor.
Yeah, I'm using my iPhone.
Okay.
So that's helping now. Okay.
Good.
I don't know why it's not showing. Oh, it doesn't matter. Let me just show it to you this way. Do you see the sun? The sun is 19 degrees of Cancer in Mr. Trump's chart.
Yep.
Okay, this is the 10th harmonic. All right, now, let me explain this to you. A harmonic chart is a derivative of a natal chart. The natal chart is the first harmonic. We're talking about sine waves. It's very complex. The harmonics are very powerful, and let me explain to you why we're looking at the 10th. The 10th is like the 10th sign. Everybody's 10th harmonic is a derivative of their natal chart, and it's like the 10th sign of Capricorn. So therefore, it's like looking at the person's career. 10th sign Capricorn's career, public placement. 7th sign Libra, partnership. 8th sign Scorpio, sex, power, sharing. I use 12 and I use 10. I use 12 and 6. 12 is the Pisces one. I use it heavily for past life. I use 6 heavily, which is the Virgo one, for destiny. So I primarily use the natal, the 12th, which is past life, the 6th, which is destiny. Rarely do I look at the 10th harmonic. And for some reason, I almost always look at the even numbered ones and not the odd numbers. The odd numbers just don't show me much. I find my evidence by looking. I don't think about it. I look and prove it. And that's good advice to you that are starting out. The greatest thing you can do starting out, whether it's 20 years or what, is to say, I don't know. That's how you get better. If you try to convince yourself and others that you do know, you're not going to get anywhere. So, the 10th harmonic is the chart I look at when I watch Nixon fall from grace. It's when I watch somebody fall from grace. The 10th harmonic chart shows not your job per se, but your social status, your status in the world. Where do you stand in the world? Picture somebody on top of the globe with their arms akimbo. That's your 10th harmonic chart. How are you standing in this wide world? Where do you stand? Do you get shaky? Can you stand? Are you cocky? What? Well, in Mr. Trump's chart, I've been telling you for months now, March 30th, one more week, Pluto will be exactly opposite his sun. Exactly. Pluto will be opposite his sun. Now it's been coming on and coming on and coming on. Pluto is the IRS. Pluto is power. Pluto is international intrigue. Pluto is espionage. Pluto is spying. This has been coming on for months and months and months. Now, rarely when a big planet hits a planet, does the event happen on that day. And that's one thing you got to learn. A lot of beginners think, well, you said the 30th and it's the 31st and nothing happened. But it doesn't work that way. The only planet that hits you exactly is Uranus. That's because of its electrical nature. Zip. Pluto can stay in the area. Pluto's going to be opposite his sun, which is causing enough trouble now. And on the 30th, it's going to be even more grave. Yes, but then on July 1st, Mars is getting involved. Mars will come over here with the sun while Pluto's sitting in the area. So up until next July 1st, Pluto's going to be opposing that sun, forcing him to face the issues of abuse of power. That's what Pluto does. And then you look for the trigger. And the trigger of all is Mars. And Mars will be on July 1st, a degree away from the sun. And that's when I think he will launch some type of attack against Pluto. And that really combines into nuclear. It doesn't mean he'll start a nuclear war, but he could very much attack in related issues. Now, Pluto opposing the sun. It's so big. He's like in a little sandbox of a Gemini mind trying to understand massive Pluto transits. And if you look at the look on his face now, you're seeing what a man looks like when he's facing Pluto. It's like he's being overrun, and this is the BSer of all BSers, and he still doesn't. He's looking like he can't handle anymore. Now, what does Pluto want? Oh, I'm going to go destroy Donald Trump. No, Pluto is talking to his sun in his 10th harmonic, and it is questioning, you've taken the position now, you are the head man in the world. And I told you, the head of a corporation, the head of a company, that chart represents the world. So what happens to his chart happens to all of us. It's just automatic. It's quantum. It's separate and it's together. So what happens to Trump? Let's say he falls to the next 5 months. The world will fall with him. But what intrigues me is two things. Are you following me so far? Because this is not easy. Two really important things here. One, we're waiting for its ego to crack. If Mr. Trump came out today and cried on TV for half an hour and all the world watched silently and he apologized and tears are falling and I'll get straight with you. That's what Pluto's about. Get straight with me. Or it's not going to be pretty, and it won't be pretty. Get straight with me. And just dump out all the things he did right and wrong. People would forget him. It would be a whole different tenor. Likewise, we're waiting for the American ego to crack. That's what's wrong in this country. Our national ego won't crack. I don't care how many days. I talked to a guy the other day. Oh, my son's in Okinawa. Yeah, well, my son's in Korea. Yeah, well, my son's in Vietnam. Well, my son's on the moon. I mean, we talk nonchalantly like we're all over the place, and it's okay. That's the international ego that we still assume. The role that we play in this world cannot continue. It can't continue because inside this country, we can't repair bridges. We can't give anybody health care because we got so much money invested in the overextended military. We're seeing signs everywhere that they don't want us to play the role. They want us to get real, to come out of it, to come into the new age. So the new role can't take place until the national ego cracks first. And I mean crack in the sense of get past it, it breaks, it's chaotic, and we evolve out of it. Become into a more universal, kind, inclusive relationship. So we see the quantum mechanics here. What happens to his chart happens to us. There's going to be a one-to-one correspondence. What happens to his ego? Because you can see with him, he will fight you tooth and nail, the whole 7 billion people on the planet, that he's right. And you've seen people like this in their attitude. You just can't keep it up forever. So that's what I want you to look for. What's happening to him is going to happen to us. Okay. Does that make sense to you? All right. Now, this is my final thought. This is what I'm working on lately, and I think it's really fascinating. You could toss me out if you want. Well, you really can't because it's my show. But anyhow, you can discard my statement. I think Mr. Trump's saboteur is on deck and he's about to approach the plate. And he doesn't even know it. And that is how Pluto works. Here's why. Pluto is ruthlessly fair. All we hear about Pluto, beside the physical things, we hear about how it's dark and it's intense and it'll rape you and it's a murderous planet and definitely all these scary things like I did with Karen 16 years ago. Karen was in my class 11 years ago and I scared the hell out of her about Pluto and she ran out of the room. It took me 11 years to calm her down. Anyhow, honestly now, Pluto is ruthlessly honest. Take your story, all of you. You've all got your junk, your baggage, all of us. Imagine sitting down across the table from Pluto. You had better dump your cards on that table and come clean. You just better do it. And you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you got to do it. So, as the Pluto gets strong in his chart, he's going to have to give way to this. And if you don't give way, Pluto would just crack you. Because Pluto will not have it any other way. One of the things about Pluto is he's finality. She's definitely a woman. She's finality. She's finality. She's the end of the conveyor belt. You're not getting past here. You're not. You've all seen these situations in your family where your life just can't go on and something has got to be done in a certain area. That's Pluto. Why? Because Pluto wants it to work. And unlike Saturn, Pluto will kill you if you don't fix it. It will. It'll get rid of you. It'll just get rid of you. It gives you many, 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 many warnings. Now, what I'm saying about Trump is I think a lot of what's going on over the next couple of weeks is his inner saboteur is going to overwhelm what Donald wants. Because remember, what Donald is a series of images in his mind. He's nothing but a series of images of titles, entitlements, and positions in his mind. But there's a deeper part of him. And yes, even Donald Trump has connection to the collective. his own Pluto passionate part of himself is going to overwhelm his own stuff and push the truth out. You ever see those movies like Jim Carrey where he's got to tell the truth and he's trying to stop it and the truth comes out anyway? That same thing. That's what's going to happen here. Now, if it doesn't come out of his mouth, it's going to come out of the mouths of the correspondents around him. Because it doesn't matter. Because we're all connected. But it's coming out. And it's coming out in 7 days. So what can you find in 7 days? What will you probably see? That's the art of astrology. You'll probably see more and more revealed about the Russian connection. Why? Because the more you try to conceal it, the more it explodes. You know that. It's like a little kid telling lies. I think Mr. Trump, at the soul level, and we've thought this all along, has volunteered to be an avatar of the ugly American.
Mm-hmm.
And his time may be up. And I don't know, and I'm not predicting it. But
some of the other astrologers are saying, or I think one of the other one is saying that he has a connection, his Mars has a connection with North Korea. His Mars line goes over North Korea. And that's why they're concerned that he's going to just, when that Mars hits the Pluto, that he's going to be trigger happy and start an altercation with...
war July 1st. Now, the reason the war would start, we talked about this yesterday, Liza and I, okay? Here's Pluto opposite his sun, threatening his sun in the 10th harmonic, which means threatening his position that he's taken in cut, right? Now, when Mars gets involved, it's not going to be over there with Pluto. It's going to be over here with his sun.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to fight back and project his ego and say, no, I'm not wrong. And that could make him launch a war. I think that the soldiers would say, no, sir, we're not going to agree. We're not going to turn the key for you, no.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen too.
Yeah. I really think when you add all this up, I think it's a very positive thing for this country, what we're going through. It's a big cleansing. It's getting us to the nth degree. And without it, we wouldn't have got here. Because Americans would just keep watching TV and eating popcorn. Keep watching TV and NASCAR and distract. You see what I mean? So let's stop here before I go to Susan's chart. And let's open this up to discussion for a little bit. Remember, you are being recorded. If you would like to comment on this, mark with your amen to that. Where did Mark go? Mark disappeared on me. He's got his mic, he's got his camera off. Okay, if you've got anything to say, just unmute yourself and say it. Karen S., I'm sure you have lots of thoughts in this area. Why don't you tell me, Karen, please, your thoughts from, I remember you telling me about 3 years ago when you read the wonderful books by Carolyn Mace talking about the United States as an entity, as a mind itself. What are you seeing, feeling, hearing? I'm going to unmute you. You were telling me about how Carolyn Mace was...
Right. I think all the stuff that you're saying is resonating very much in sync with what she's saying. She said that when her thing was when 2001, the 9/11 happened in 2001, that was the pivotal moment when we started having to face the shadow sides of our archetypes that we carry.
Right.
And we've kind of misused the rebel archetype, which is the one that we were founded on. And now that all the shadows have come out. And her claim is that the founding fathers, most of them have reincarnated at this point on the globe because it is such a pivotal point in human history. Because unlike many other countries, ours was basically our country was founded on kind of a spiritual contract with,
Right.
because it was the first, we were the first nation that ever declared that all men were equal, that the aristocrat wasn't better than the serf, that we were all equal. And we've certainly morphed away from that in many respects. And so when you sit there and say that he's the avatar of the dirty American, I think that's right. I think we needed a big mirror, and he shows a big, like his interview today when they ask him how he could come to terms with the fact that he's told so many lies and untruths, and was he worried about that? And he goes, yeah, you know what, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I'm president and you're not. That was his answer.
I believe it. Now, anybody that has any background noise, please mute your microphone. I'm getting some disturbance. Well, another thing I want to point out, very good, Karen, is 9/11. We were a cancer country till then, and we still are. We had Mexico, we had Canada, we had big oceans. We didn't think anything of it. Well, you live in Czechoslovakia, you think a lot about everything because everybody's right next door.
Absolutely.
Completely different mentality. And when those jets hit that building, that reality was gone. Somebody's really getting a lot of, somebody needs to mute their microphone. Okay.
It's monitored.
Really?
Well, it says
I got it turned on. Let me try this. Hold on. Let me turn my sound off here. How about now? You hearing anything?
No.
Anything? Are you hearing anything?
No.
Okay. So
Just
it's
you.
not the monitor. I turned the monitor, just the monitor on. The monitor is shut off. Okay. It was Elke's chart or feed. Now,
Sure.
what it says, listen. See? Okay, you're on, Elke. Now you sound fine. What's on your mind? You're a Canadian.
Nothing. I'm just listening. Listening.
You're a Canadian. You're looking at us. What do you see in terms of what we talked about?
Well, that really resonated with me what Karen said. I follow Carolyn Mice as well, and I think she's just absolutely brilliant in terms of having her finger on the energies of the time. And I've had a discussion with somebody that lives in the US right now and is debating coming back home again to Canada, and all the things that should be equal are not. You don't have health care, universal health care. You think that people are expendable. You don't take care of your veterans. It's like the poor. You don't have proper philosophical values where, like you were saying, Karen, that all men are equal. No, they're not. They're not. Exactly. It's the 1%. Yes.
And that is why it's so appealing to put on your baseball hat, make America great again. Because the opposite is to face who we've become.
But we're all moving towards, it's bigger than that. It's not just about the US. It's a worldwide movement where we are asked to become a global community. And for Trump to go, no, we're going to be like in our own little corner and we don't really care about the rest of you guys anymore. I'm just waiting for China to come and collect all the debts that the US owes them. I mean, the US is in China's pocket anyways, whether it's delusional. People don't realize how indebted they are to China.
Well, you're talking exactly right, and you all know how long this is going to last if we keep it up, and that's why I said earlier, we have to change our role that we play in the world willingly. Okay, I want to bring it into this, and thank you, Elgie. That was good. Hi, Sandra. Welcome aboard. I'm going to switch now to Miss Susan F's chart. I think it's very interesting. I'm trying to take these evenings into general topics, and yes, things are on fire much more than usual. I do want to say, finally, don't be shocked if the 30th comes and things get really nasty. It's my opinion only, that it's going to get a whole lot worse and they're going to uncover a lot more. Because who do you think Pluto opposite the sun is? These planets take on personifications. It is the USSR. I'm sorry. It is the Soviet Union. No, it's Russia. I'll get it straight. Pluto is working through the Russians now. It's all about subterfuge, working behind the scenes in the shadows. So keep your eyes open. This is not going to end on the day after the 30th. It's going to continue. So let's take a look at Susan's chart. I've read for a few times, but I found some intriguing things I want to show you. Susan, I'm going to turn your mic on and bring up your chart. And here is Susan's chart. And we should see the moon up at the top. Pinch for a bigger view. Let's try it again. No, okay, let's try it again. Let's try it again. There it is. Okay. So we're going to start out basic once again. We have a Virgo sun with a moon in Cancer. Okay. Right away, we see that that's a good combination. It's a very good combination. Why? And I'm not going to go elemental, but what's the number one problem with Virgos? Is they're not emotional enough. They're so robot-like in their work habits. They're nice people. They're perfectionists. They get things done. They're caring, but they're not warm and fuzzy. Well, Susan happens to be warm and fuzzy because she's got a moon in Cancer. The moon is your emotions. It's in the most emotional sign there could be of Cancer, its own ruler. The moon rules Cancer, and the moon is right near the angle. So the moon is very strong. So I'm not going to go into it now, but whenever I see in a chart a moon real strong or Saturn, I talk about the mom and dad. I investigate it. Usually the mother is the moon and daddy is the Saturn. Sometimes one person is both. Sometimes it flips. Sometimes it alternates. That's what you'll find if you ask questions instead of trying to tell your ED what's happening. So we know the mother is a very big influence, and by subtracting the degrees here, 4, almost 5 degrees, and 12, we know something, the difference is 7. We know something critical happened with the mother at age 7. Critical. We don't know what it is yet, but we know that. We keep that on the side burner till we talk to the client. And I'm only doing a half of a reading because it's more for educational purposes. But it's a very nice combination. You see Virgos married to Cancers all the time. Usually it's Virgo men marrying Cancer women because the Virgo men are very good providers. They're very protective. The Cancers want to be protected. They're very good domestically. And they supply the emotion that the Virgo doesn't have. Now, the thing that will strike you when you get to know Susan, who's a delightful woman, but what will strike you about talking to her, there's this, and I found the answer today, there's this unusual repression in her chart where she feels bad if she goes and plays. She feels bad. She's got this great artistic side, but she feels bad and guilty if she's not out working and producing. Remember, that's what Virgo says. Produce, 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 produce. And I'm going to stop for a second and reiterate. If you have any Virgo in your life or people with strong Virgo influences, go to my Rick DiClemente channel on YouTube and go down through them, and you will see all these unplugs, and you'll see one sticking out that says, helping Virgos get past perfectionism. It's got a picture of a virgin on there. It's right on my YouTube channel. By the way, if you don't know, you can go to YouTube, go to my channel and subscribe to it. That way, when I put up new videos, you will get notified. But I took a 90-minute at length Virgo lecture, condensed it to 30 minutes. So you're highly advised, even if you're a Virgo and you've seen it, go watch it again because it's really critical. Now, so I wondered, going in and after talking and meeting and working with Susan, where does this come from? Because it sticks out. It's bigger than most. Why? And when it sticks out, you got to find that in the chart. Let's go back to the chart. All right. Keeping that in mind. Here is her chart again. All right. So we know she's emotional and caring. We know that she's fastidious and perfectionist. She does have 4 planets in Virgo: Pluto, Mercury, Mars. This Mars is not as close to the ascendant as it looks. That's the software that causes this. This Mars is 8 degrees from here. There's 8 degrees of separation here because it's at 26, 27, 28, 29, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're really 8 degrees. If this Mars were closer to the ascendant, then she would be very Martian, and she would have qualities of Aries, because Mars is the planet that rules Aries. And she would be more headstrong, which she's not. So Mars and the Sun and Mercury are all in the 12th house. Mercury is at least her co-ruling planet. She was born with Mercury stationary, which means it was going into retrograde or coming out of retrograde. So the Mercury is very important to investigate. The Mercury in Virgo is the type of mind that's analytical. It can make decisions. It can separate right from wrong. Very precise, very good engineers, very good at work, very good with accounting. A good, precise, decisive mind. Let's stop for a second and investigate this, because we're learning here. There are several kinds of minds in the zodiac. Mercury is usually the example of the kind of mind. The Mercury in Gemini, where it's the natural ruler, it's the first time we get addressed to Mercury, is the inquisitive mind. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at that. I can think of this. I can send articles around. Geminis are obsessed. How does the mind work? Okay? The Mercury in Virgo, which is co-ruler of, it used to be the ruler of, I think now the ruler of Virgo is Chiron, but there's many years that we have to study to prove that. But the Mercury in Virgo is very analytical, very sharp. You want to hire these people. They're really good. They don't make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They will drive you nuts when they tell you a story. They'll say, well, I saw my buddy the other day on Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? No, it was Thursday. No, was it Tuesday? No. Wednesday, I dropped off my cleaning. Was it Wednesday? Maybe it was Thursday. They'll drive themselves nuts, so you're just sitting waiting for the story. And you don't care which day it was. But to them, they have to get it straight because they'll get disorder in their mind. Now, that is why one of the reasons Virgos will fool you. Because you read all this stuff about they got all their dolls in a row, they got all their books in a row. Well, you'll go visit some Virgos and their house can be very messy. But you look inside their mind and it's not messy. Their mind is very ordered. Okay? Mercury in Libra, the next air sign. There are 3 air signs. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. The Mercury in Libra people are social thinkers. What's the opinions here? How does society think? What is with it? John Lennon was a great example of being tuned to what people thought. manipulating how people thought throughout the psyche. So they're social thinkers. They're not really universal thinkers. They're not trivia thinkers. They're social thinkers. The final one is Aquarius. And these people are out there. These are your brilliant geniuses, and they use the highest dimension of mind. And what I love reading for Aquarians, especially the women, because they really care about thoughts. They care about the ramifications of two thoughts. If you got this, and A is true, and B is true, then therefore C is true. The rest of the zodiac doesn't care, generally. Aquarians do. Aquarians go, well, if you got this and you got that, do you realize what that means? The ramifications. So it's the highest dimension of mind. So those are your different kinds of minds. Coming back to her chart now, this is all covered in the beginning class, which is probably going to start pretty soon. Now, coming back to her chart, where's her Venus and Mars? Remember the 5 personal planets: Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Venus has to be in the same sign or 1 or 2 signs away. It's got to stay within 5 signs. Venus is in Scorpio. Okay, now I like that. That's one of the reasons she's an artist. Venus in Virgo is very passionate. Here it sits right next to Neptune. Now it's universal and it's a romantic. So we have a very unusual Virgo. Virgos aren't romantic. It's one of the least romantic signs there is. But you've got a Virgo with a moon in Cancer and Venus, Neptune, and Scorpio. So now we know that she is romantic. She may not show it, but she is. She's passionate about music, etc., etc. And when I think about Venus next to Neptune, I think of my parents. Because my parents, they're gone now. My mother was an opera singer. My father was from Italy. And when they would play opera when I was growing up in the house, they would go, oh, Dota, Dota, oh! And they would just be overwhelmed with the beauty of all this. Oh, Mario Alonso, oh! You know, so I grew up with that, which is why I don't listen to opera today. Okay, so we see that for the Virgo, we've got a very emotional, loving woman. The basic Virgo is very caring. Remember, the revolution I tried to pull off in the book was to go away from perfectionism in Virgo and point towards caring and, I can never remember the two. Caring and, what was the other word? What was the other word? Caring and, not perfectionistic. Purist. That's one of the reasons that Virgos get critical with you. They're purist. Almost all Virgos have pure complexions. Almost everyone. I don't care what age. You see a pure complexion, it's a Virgo. They're pure. That's why they don't want you to do a crappy job at something. Get out of my way, I'll fix it.
Yep.
That's Virgo. They care. Other signs, well, I got to work till 5. See you later. All right. So we know that she's passionate. And with the Venus next to Neptune, it becomes very universal because of Neptune's influence on Venus. So we've got a very unusual Virgo here. A moon in Cancer, a Venus in Scorpio, which is very passionate. But I'm going to show you where the problem comes in. All right. Now I'm going back here, look at the monitor, and there we are. Okay. Look at the Mars. The Mars looks like it's on the descendant. Remember, the planets rise this way. This is your horizon. These are the planets rising. So Mars had just risen, and you couldn't see it because the sun was shining. Okay, but it was right behind it. Matter of fact, 1 degree away. So we have a Sun-Mars conjunction. sun 1 degree away from Mars. So she picks up Martian aspects from this, and yes, Susan is a Martian.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
I was just thinking that the other day when I was driving. I'm like, I'm a really weird person, but I don't care. I think
you're
it's
not
fun.
weird, you're a Martian.
I always knew I was from another planet.
And you look kind of green here on the screen. Kidding, joking. No,
I know.
what that means is that she picks up, and that really helps her because she has Martian abilities beyond. Virgo is a shy sign. Can you see that with Gorich? Is that his name? Who's the guy running for what's his name running for Supreme Court?
Gorich.
That's what I thought I said.
Gorsuch.
Gorsuch.
Can you see the
Gorsuch.
Virgo in this man? He's got his ideas stuck down. He's got it all figured. There will be no emotion showing. He's got it in a box. He's going to tell you. That is so Virgo in this guy. Okay? Not her. She's got Sun Mars. She's going to let you know Mars is Aries, and Aries lets their personality out. They let Jack Nicholson, they let their personality out. That's why when you're with Susan, you're not going to get this dried up robotic Gorsuch type of person.
No.
It's because the Mars is there. And the Mars helps us. And so far, we really got a pretty darn good chart. The problem comes in with Saturn. Because when you get to know her, she feels bad if she sneaks off and does some art. She goes and does art. If I tell her, you're allowed to go do art, you go do it. I have to give her permission. I don't have any power, but I give her permission. She goes off and she does artwork and she loves it. Okay, so where's that fight come from? What's that all about? That's what we're going to investigate. Back to the chart. So as you go to outer planets like Jupiter and Saturn, since they move so slowly, they're not so personal. All the kids in your high school class pretty much have the same Jupiter. And the kids 1 year before you, 1 year after you, pretty much have the same Saturn. Now, one of the things you'll notice here is we've now realized, and now I'm putting on my chart wheel, this is Aries, every 540 years. I do not know how to answer your questions about Aries. She's too new to me. She's absolutely a powerhouse. She's the one that's causing all this stuff right now. She's in this sign of Aries for 45 years. No, 125 years. 125 years. So since she's all by herself over here, this is Chiron, Miss Susan should be extremely Arisian. But I don't know enough about Aries to really qualify. Plus, it's near that angle, 4 degrees, 9 degrees. So I don't know, and I will file that in my mind as a strong Aries, and I will include her in my studies as I keep studying Aries through the years. Okay, we see Uranus opposite Chiron. Now, this is going to interest you. This is the symbol of people who are good at astrology.
Oh.
They have, especially with Chiron in Aquarius, because astrology is an Aquarian science. Now, because Uranus goes around every 84 years on a weird orbit, and Chiron every 51 years, it just so happened that as these two revolved, they stayed opposite each other for 37 years.
Oh my.
Everybody for 37 years has this opposition. They have it in different signs. From 1952 to 1987, 52 to 89, everybody's got this. Now, what does this mean? You have the newness, inventiveness of Uranus opposite the healer, which is Chiron. What this generation or sub-generation has that has this, and everybody here listening has this. These are people who are really interested in healthy alternative methods of healing. We're open to talking about alternate methods of healing. Virgos don't talk about alternate methods of healing. It's not a Virgo thing, but they do today because they got this. So while this fight is going on between Chiron at 12, almost 13, and I told you the base of a T-square, you have to study what's the basis. So the basis here is really not much of a fight, but this has a lot of energy in it, but I don't really consider a lot of fight because Virgo is fine. I'm sorry, since Chiron rules Virgo, Chiron is symbolic of Virgo. It's fine with Uranus trying to help out people in the 11th house. Uranus in the 11th is about helping your friends, helping groups, coming together. It's a fiery Uranus in the sign of Leo. So these two planets really get along pretty well. This is a very highly energized person who's really into stirring things up, get the groups together, let's heal together and all that. But where does the output come? The output comes 10, 12, 4. It comes out on the north node, really, at 11, but it comes out largely on her Venus. 12, 10, 4. So we can see that Susan is very up for joining groups, working with groups that are going to heal together. She has a kind of a romantic vision of it, but she gets into groups with people, and she's not just the type of Virgo that's going to help you make cupcakes. She's the type that's going to put her arms around you and hug you and welcome to the group. This is not a bad T-square. This is not bad. So I like this, and I could examine this further, but I don't think it's really critical right now. Now, one thing that did happen, and I'm going to just mention it, and then we're going to move on. In the past several years, the past 3 years, Pluto's been down here at 12. Pluto now is up here at 19, about here. It's been here at 12, and that's opposite the moon. So she has had Pluto, and the moon is your emotions, it's your family, it's your background. She's had Pluto opposite the moon the past 3 or 4 years, and I'm sure that's been no simple picnic for her.
No, it hasn't.
And that's why I've been reading for her. How would you encapsulate that time period, Susan?
It's just, I'm feeling better. I'm starting to come out of it, but I have just I have felt like a zombie and just kind of depressed and, just like walking through life.
All right, now that's something separate. We're going to get to that, and I'm going to tell you what's causing that. That's different. That's Neptune. But in the past couple of years, what would you say, what was happening to your moon? Your feeling of your family, your place in your family, your emotions, your emotional needs, your background. What happened in those areas of your life?
Well, I think I've been in and out of therapy for a long time. So I was doing a lot of work on my mother and my grandmother. My grandmother was a huge influence when I was younger, real young. And she did a lot of physical and emotional damage. So, I've been working on that stuff on and off over the years.
So that's what your Pluto moon did.
Right. And then my dad, my dad is a Capricorn. He's a Republican. He's, real stoic and blah, blah, blah. But him and I have kind of gotten closer the past couple of years.
Did you start throwing things out?
Yes, I did. And I'm still in the process of cleaning up.
That was the Pluto hitting the moon. And I've told you that's the step one to healing Pluto moon. Pluto times is throwing out old junk, symbolic of getting rid of your baggage. But we're going to get right to the point here. Here's what's really going on now. 2 things, Neptune and Saturn. Now, when you look at this Saturn, when I started to examine these continual reports from you of, I want to go do art, but I feel like I shouldn't. Virgo wants you to be productive. Get the house clean, wash the windows, get the hose out for the summer, all this stuff. But when you're an artist, you don't want to hear that stuff. You want to go paint, right?
Yes, I did my volunteer work the other day.
Okay, now the Virgo keeps harping on you to do all that stuff, but I don't think it's that strong. I don't think the Virgo harping on you is that strong. I don't think that Virgo is responsible for this repression. I think it comes from Saturn squaring Mercury. Let me show you. That's what I think it's really from, which I discovered today. So
Well, I do have go back and forth, like you said I do, but I don't feel as guilty. I mean, maybe because I'm older, but I don't think I feel as guilty if I go do something that I used to.
I'm going to show you why that's happening. But this is the problem. You see the Saturn in Sag at 8 degrees squaring the Mercury?
Yes.
In addition to 1, 2, 3, 4 planets in Virgo. So 4 planets are telling you to be productive, and Saturn saying get to work. That all bunches up together. It's a similar voice. See? That's where the problem comes in. And Saturn coming out of the sign of Sagittarius is rules and belief systems and philosophies. So this is from the past life, which means I'm not going to let you be who you want. You got work to do.
Right.
Past lives are full of repression. We're going to get to the solution here in a minute, which is why your chart's being looked at now, which means you're ready to do it. But let me show you where this comes from. So I say to myself, where did this theme come in Susan's chart in this lifetime of holding down her Mercury, which is her mind, which is overwhelming? This is the source of her creativity, along with the sun, but this is the artist. Why is the Mercury held down? And the Mercury, remember, is a mind that thinks productively, get things done, get the job done. Well, yours is like anytime you go away for a 5-minute break, anytime you walk away from the conveyor belt for 5 minutes, it says, get back to work, get back to work. Get more done. Is that true?
Not so much now. When I was younger, maybe the past.
All right.
Not so much now, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good that you're making great progress here. Now let me show you what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to go into great explanation. I'm going to take the peekaboo into your past life.
Okay.
And I call it the spiritual transcript. But let me show you what I found. In your past life chart, this is it. I hope you're going to get to see it. You're not. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, now in the 12th harmonic in your chart, there it is. Okay, this is your past life or your history of spiritual lives. What do we see here? All this Leo, which is very, very creative. All this Mars and Aquarius, freedom to everybody. Powerful Aries stuff in the 11th house means I'm leading groups. I'm high talented. I'm pioneering groups of everybody, everything. But where's the problem in? The problem is the Saturn in Cancer. Look at the problem with Saturn in Cancer. It's 15, closely squaring Pluto, Neptune. Very powerful squares. So you don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. But look at how your moon is hanging out. Your moon is not free with your friends, being creative, out and about. Your moon has its arms wrapped around a pier. People with the moon in this area have their arms wrapped around the pier. And they look out in the ocean and they say, oh, everybody's having fun in their boats and splashing water. How come I can't go out in the water? And you look and say, look at your arms. Well, your arms are wrapped around the pier. That's why you can't go out. But they don't feel safe doing it. So for whatever reason in your past life, whatever, I don't know, you felt scared to let go, not able to let go. The same theme. Very creative, very powerful, but unable to let go. But I think what we found here is that your past life, and this is very common, told you whatever, that if you let go, you're going to be emotionally threatened. You're going to be emotionally threatened. And Saturn and Cancer is all about losing your home, being abandoned. They're going to come get you. You're going to fall. You're going to be out in the cold. So what do? You create a chart in this lifetime, and there we see your birth chart. You brought similar themes into this lifetime. You got the artistic ability, and you got the Saturn square the Mercury. And the reason you're on television right now, the reason you're on this show right now, is because Neptune is right here.
Yeah.
Neptune is right here, right opposite Mercury.
And I do have a hard time letting go. So yes, I do. I will admit that. Yes.
That's okay, because that is changing. Because as we speak, Neptune is right here.
Right. It's right. And is it on the same degree?
It doesn't have to be. As you can
Okay,
look,
because
you can see here, it's 1231.
right. And remember when I was back east and I talked to you and I said I was picking up everybody's energy and
Right.
hearing everybody's thoughts when in the airport. Well,
Okay.
that's still going on, but I'm getting a handle on it. And
All right, now let me explain this to you. Neptune is probably the most powerful planet there is. It doesn't have to be within 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees. This is a powerhouse. A powerhouse. This is God's voice and God's grace inside you.
well, I'm definitely feeling it.
Of course you are. And what I'm trying to do with you is help you understand it, pinpoint it, be able to identify it. I identify the ramifications, etc. So what's happening, and I see this in so many people, you are really halfway through your life.
Right.
I don't mean by years. I mean by mentality. Your mind has carried you all the way to here, and now it's time to drop the mind and follow spirit.
Okay.
Okay? And
Yes.
why is it happening? Follow me. A bad astrologer. Go ahead, Elke.
Oh no, you finished, and then I want to say something.
No, say it.
I'm like, do you do art therapy?
Yeah.
Susan, do you do art
That's
therapy?
That's how I was taught to paint. I do volunteer with one of my clients she works with like troubled kids, the parents are alcoholics or drug addicts, or they're just troubled, they're traumatized. I do volunteer with that, and I just did it the other day. I love to do it. I really do. I love to go there. It just feeds me.
What's Elke's point here?
I think my point is like do more art therapy, but do it in unusual, like different mediums, but do it for yourself too.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Very good.
I have done it for myself.
Very good. Now look here. Look here. The Neptune, beside being opposite her Mercury, which is her ruling planet, has just crossed into the 6th house. When a planet crosses one house into another, it's a big deal. And one of the truths I've noticed for years, when a planet crosses into the 6th house is your work skills, it's your health, etc. But the most powerful part of a house is the beginning. As Neptune starts going through the 6th house, it'll be here the rest of your life. It gets weaker and weaker. You get used to it. But when it crosses in is when you get obsessed with doing that new thing. and you're learning new job skills. So Neptune
Right.
is teaching you new job skills, which are spiritual, because it's Neptune. Now, here's the main story. Your Mercury all your life has been hearing Mercury, Virgo, Sun, Virgo, Pluto, Virgo, Mars, Virgo. It's been hearing your mind, the way your mind works. It's been hearing get to work, right? Get things done, be productive. At the same time, this soul in you has a deeply imaginative, passionate way. Like Yoki says, this is a very good symbol of doing art therapy with people, because Scorpio is all about death and rebirth and reborn, transformation. It's good, but we can't get the mind loose. The mind can't get loose. Why can't it get loose? Because the past life, when the mind got loose, you paid for it emotionally.
Yeah, my mind will drive me nuts sometimes. Yes, it will.
Now listen to me. More
Okay.
importantly than this life, more importantly than what your parents said or your economic status in this lifetime, what happened in your past life is what's dominating, and it's what you're getting free of now.
Okay.
You were taught that if you went out and played mentally, you would suffer. It's that simple. If you played mentally, you would suffer. Now, could somebody beat you? Somebody yell at you? I don't know how, but that's the point. And you're now realizing not only is that a lie, but now your good karma, your Neptune is sitting here, is feeding directly into that Mercury. And now you've got this guy sitting on a chair in Pittsburgh telling you all about it in California for free.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just saying that's how grace works. Now, as Neptune goes back and forth and back and forth, it wouldn't happen unless you were ready. It wouldn't happen unless your heart were in the right place. So what this means is you're now starting to feel the spirit, and it takes a strong force to overwhelm the certainty of Virgo. And I have so many Virgo women who are doing so well at getting past this perfectionism. And that's because they're very pure and they're very caring. So what I said yesterday to a Virgo I read for is the same story today. You're still going to keep your Virgo qualities, but you're going to allow this Neptune to start dissolving this. Now watch this. Virgo is black and white. Neptune is gray, 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 gray. Black,
Right.
gray, gray, gray. Black and white. Gray, gray, gray. So they're going to start mixing. They're going to start mixing. Now, I want to tell you another thing. If you have any problems medically, because Neptune's hitting your ruling planet, the Mercury rules, the Virgo rules the intestinal area. Neptune is in the house, the sixth house of the body. There's a very high degree chance that any medical problem you have in the near future will be psychosomatic.
Okay.
I'm not a doctor, but I want you to take a look. If you get ill or something, and I know Elke's been through similar things recently, it's very possible that any illness you come up with in the near future will be because you're simply more sensitive to things around you than usual. Hay fever, food allergies, but these are very common Neptune times. It's very common. You go to the doctor, he sees a symptom, he starts guessing, he gives you drugs.
Right.
Now, what Elke said here is a beautiful combination to combine drugs, artwork, fixing people, which is Virgo, the Scorpio transformation, helping people with art therapy is a perfect outlet for what's going on now.
But paint what's inside your mind, Susan.
Well, you know,
Put that down.
Elkie, that's how I paint. I can't like look at something and paint. I paint
Right.
from my subconscious and my unconscious.
Good.
And that's what will make it so interesting.
That's how I was taught to paint.
Awesome. Perfect. You're on the
Now-
right track.
Another thing you need to be aware of, when Neptune hits your Mercury, it will make you crazy.
Yeah,
It
just
will make
about.
you. There are times in certain evenings when it's exact, you'll think you're nuts. You will think you're nuts because you're going to be unable to go back to the sculpted room, the rooms with dimensions and doors and boundaries, because Neptune does away with all the boundaries, and it can be very freaky. People can have very weird experiences. Now, I think that since you are born with such a strong Neptune, you are used to its energies. So I
Mhm.
don't think that Neptune's going to hurt you that bad. In other words, when a big planet hits you, you always have somewhat of a negative result. All people. No one in the world gets hit by a big planet and everything's hunky-dory. It just doesn't happen. There's always a residual effect. So just be of heart and know that if Neptune's hitting you and it getting weird, that's a signal for you to close the art, close up shop, and go read your spiritual books. Go walk, go meditate.
All right.
Okay.
I live in the woods, so I can sit outside and,
Yeah.
and that's what I do because I've noticed since I started feeling this Neptune thing in August, I've noticed if I watch too much news, I start like, I'll just disassociate. I'll go right out of my body.
Yeah, you get too overwhelmed.
I have to off.
I'm going to stop the recording now because I think this is apropos for our viewers. And thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, but the rest of you stay right there.